Goobers, it's me, your favorite goober, and I sound less nasally on this attempt. Now, yesterday was a special day. It was day 600. It was the two-third point into year two, and it was a perfect day to do the video I'm doing today. But instead, after about 4.5 hours of attempts, I got really sleepy, time passed me by, and I just made a quick video and clocked out for the day. And I wanted to say that I'm sorry. I feel bad. I at least had one person who was anticipating a longer yap, and then I show up with 30 seconds of tired, sad energy. So I do apologize. Originally, I was going to split this video into two parts because I felt like it would have been better, but I realized after so many attempts yesterday for the part one that I could condense part one down pretty quickly, pretty easily, and I'm going to be, continuing with that idea today, and I'll just be combining both. So yesterday was supposed to be about where am I currently and where do I want to go, and then it was going to be for part two, all the creative projects that I wanted to pursue. And today, I actually had a new manga concept come into my mind as an entirely new series, to be more specific. I look forward to mentioning the rough idea that I came up with today. I really like it. Um, so yeah, I'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, I'm going to go into where am I currently. So overall in life, I have made improvements since the end of year one, all the way up to here. I I'm employed. I am more active thanks to my job currently. I am starting to really combat some bad habits a lot more seriously, and I've been working towards that. And so far, a little bit of progress. There's a lot more that I wish a lot more improvement I wish I had, but anything is better than nothing, and there is steady improvement happening week over week. So I look forward to hopefully really smashing these and moving forward. A good example of a bad habit that I am really focusing on is snacking. But one major improvement has been the heavy reduction of sugars, of excess sugars from candies and all that. I have reduced that. And there is a lot to be improved, but I'm doing better. And I have to force myself to acknowledge that because it is not healthy to continually see negatives upon negatives. There has been improvements, so I'm happy with that. Um, but yeah, I mentioned I'm a little more physically active. I wanted to be way more active than I have been, but at least this current job that I have, I get my steps in. All right, let me tell you, I get my freaking steps in. Holy moly. Monday through Friday, guaranteed. Uh, there's there's movement, I'll tell you that. I work as a janitor. I clean around the perimeter of a hospital. I pick up garbage, going in between all the cars and stuff and all the rows. And, I'm picking up all the garbage on all the little nooks and crannies. And I'm also responsible for, replacing garbage bags. And there's a couple other miscellaneous tasks that I'm supposed to do. I'm just the outdoor janitor, I should mention. I'm not doing the whole building. Goodness gracious. If I was doing that, it'd probably be a full-time job. Tell you what. But it's just a part-time gig, Monday through Friday, and I'm happy to have it. I'm employed, so I'm making some money, and it's been nice. It's been nice, but I'll get to it. I'm looking to get a full-time job, uh, hopefully sooner rather than later. Give me one moment. All right, and yeah. So some positives, right? There's a lot more progress I wish I'd made. There's a lot more for me that I could go on about how like, oh, I could have done this or I should have done that. But some improvements have been made. and I'm happy enough with them, especially knowing there's still a whole third of the year to go, and I hope that by the end of this current year that we're in for year two, I will be able to look back on it and say that a lot of progress has been made. I don't intend to do a year four, but I might keep up with a year three. But I should retire this channel by year four, ideally, because I'll be moving on to other things instead of this channel. This channel is supposed to end at some point, frankly. Um, and then I'll create a new account and whatnot, start from scratch, because I'm going to have a whole new alias. I'll have a pen name, most likely, or just some sort of identity that is no longer tied to any other account that I have anywhere, just so that way it's like by itself and its own little pocket of the internet, because it's kind of how I want to do things. So yeah. However, let's look towards where I want to go. In the very short term, I mentioned that I wanted to get a job, a full-time job. I have a kind of midterm goal here, which is to move out. That's what I've been working towards for a little while now, and to do so, I'm going to need full-time employment. That's a minimum. Ideally, I can get that hopefully figured out in the next month or two, but time will have to tell how that goes. I think it's possible, especially with summer coming around. I'm looking to work retail. I'm trying to get a job at a Costco. They got great benefits. That would be ideal, but you know, they're pretty difficult to get a job at sometimes. I've applied multiple times, and I got told I should probably just walk in with a resume, speak to a hiring manager, and you know what? I'm probably going to do that within the next month. They told me to wait like 2 months. It's been less, I think it's been like 3 weeks when they told me that, so I have been kind of biding my time until that 2 month mark hits. I'm probably better off doing it sooner rather than later, though. Probably wouldn't hurt to get in before maybe the summer rush of applications, if that makes sense. Um, I should consider that. To be fair, I should consider that. I've just been kind of like, oh yeah, I'll respect that. I'll wait for the 2 months, but probably better sooner rather than later, right? So, yeah. Anyways, to get away from this point, right, I'm looking to get a full-time job because my midterm goal is to move out. And some other goals that I have are to improve my health and fitness. So I'd like to have, obviously, more activity. Whether I get into like a sport or something, that would be nice. I'd love to get into volleyball if I could. I never got to play a real game of volleyball when I was in high school, but I still ended up falling uh, in love with it. I thought it was so fun because I guess it's a lie to say I never got a real game. I just got a small taste of like 2 to 3 matches, and that was it because everybody else in class was just not trying to play the sport or trying to do anything serious. They were just lobbing the ball over the net and hoping somebody just didn't lob it up. That small taste I got of the real deal was like, ooh, I want more. And I obviously wasn't able to. I've been trying to find some recreational volleyball play, but it's just around me. I guess it's not popular for adults, I should say. There are children-oriented things, but I'm a 20, almost 21-year-old dude, bro. So I'd stand out in those classes, right? And so unfortunately, I haven't been able to find anything like that. But in terms of like general activity, just going to the gym as well. I'm also looking to improve my diet more so than I already have been. I mentioned a couple of smaller things that I'm, improving on, but I'd like to really, really improve my dieting. And then sleep quality is something that I honestly am embarrassed to admit took me so long to even consider. I had heard so much about sleep and all the importance of sleep, but I never really took into consideration the quality of that sleep. I always looked at the quantity in hours of sleep. And so moving forward in my life, I'll try to be a little more serious about not only getting the correct amount of hours, which I still struggle to do sometimes, but also worrying about the quality of those hours spent sleeping, as I think that is just as much, if not potentially more, important than the hours alone. And so, health and fitness, I have some goals there. I also would like to pursue streaming. Uh, it is a career that I would like to open the doors to, potentially. I love it when people watch me play games, and I love discussing, what's going on or whatnot. And I feel like my niche would just be a more laid back kind of person who really tries to understand everything that they're playing, and I get really engrossed into the story. I easily find myself immersed. I easily find myself immersed in the games that I play. And I think that could be kind of infectious, right? Because I'm not going to be yapping over everything. I'm not going to be, you know, trying to get to the next big puzzle or the next big thing. Like I'll take my time and go all the different routes and look for the secrets and try to solve the hidden puzzles and stuff. And I think that kind of approach to playstyle could also be interesting enough to warrant, viewing my stream. In terms of my entertainment value, I believe it's possibly there. Uh, I don't think I have anything going for me to such a degree that's like, yeah, you're the one to watch. Oh yeah. I think that I'm just kind of a laid back blank slate individual. I don't really have any sort of intentions to do anything crazy. I just intend to kind of be chill. I don't know. I don't want to turn that into like my job. Ideally, it would be good enough to work a part-time job and do streaming to supplement my full needs for income. Because if I could do streaming and all I was having to do was work a part-time job, then that would give me a lot more time to pursue the creative projects that I'm interested in. So, what are they? Well, I've got quite a few. Give me just a moment. Take a sip of a drink here. All right. Whew, a lot of yapping here. I've got quite a few creative project ideas, and I'll save my manga for last because I have the most to say about that. But a general idea is I have two albums in mind, a plethora of standalone songs. I have three video game ideas that I'd potentially like to see come to life, and I have three manga ideas. One of those is brand new that I came up with bottom of my heart earlier today. And yeah, truth be told, if I had to pick one, it would be the manga that I've been working on for basically almost I'd say like over 90% of year two has been me saying, put a little bit of effort towards my manga today, end quote. Right? And yeah, if I had to pick one project to pursue, it would be the manga that I'm working on right now. So, there's that. I wanted to get that out of the way because I know I just mentioned, like, you know, what was it? One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, six, eight. I mentioned 8 different large scale projects, and then I also mentioned a bunch of standalone songs, right? Um, that's a lot. Frankly, that's a lot. And I don't know if I'll really be able to make half of that a reality, or at least, produce something that I'm satisfied with. So I knew that if I had to pick one, would I be confident in my choice? And I am very confident when I say the manga that I have in mind is certainly that choice that I'd be like, yeah, if I had to pick one, it's that. Uh, so I have a sense of direction of where I want to go in life, but I have a bunch of other things I want to do. So let's talk about them, right? What are my album ideas? Well, the first one is a very personal album called Mister. And the theme of the album is it's going to tackle a bunch of different aspects about me and, how I approach things and, my shortcomings in life and whatnot. And it's going to be a very introspective album. Uh, Songs like Mr. Nobody, Mr. Maybe, Mr. Wannabe, Mr. Dreamer. These are some examples of titles to these songs. You might catch the theme here, right? Oh, Mister. Oh, that's on the nose. But yeah, it's a very introspective album that's going to really tackle a lot of personal aspects about me. And I think it'll be pretty cool, pretty fun to kind of dissect all these different parts of me and turn it into music. Maybe it might be relatable. Who knows? But the other album is a challenge and a love note to it's a love note to so many, and it's a challenge to myself. I want to make that distinction clear. Um, what do I mean by that? Well, I call it ditto mimicry, and the idea is to take a large handful of artists that have inspired me musically and try to imitate them as closely as I can. And to do that, I'm going to try to make a song in their style, right? Imagine like I'm writing a song for them. I just also happen to be the one singing it and producing it. Um, Ideally, I'd love it if they, you know, sang it, but, pipe dream for sure. Even if I have some smaller niche artists who I could maybe have a 1 in a million chance of rather than a 1 in a billion of them singing it. Uh, I don't know. It'd be cool. I would love for them to do that. But the point is, I'm trying to challenge myself to do a myriad of different styles. They're all very different. There's there's a lot. And it'll be very fun because it'll challenge me to not only write a song in their style, but also write songs in that genre and really try to experiment and see, what can I achieve? What am I capable of? And it'll be fun. When I think about it, I just think about how fun it'll be. It'll be a love note to a lot of my favorite artists who've inspired me. It'll be a great challenge to myself. And like I said, I think it'll be so fun. So those are my music album ideas. And I mentioned I had a bunch of, standalone song ideas. There's a lot. I don't remember half of them. I just save them in my notes app, and future me will come to them and, finish them out, make them into something one day, hopefully. But moving on, I also mentioned that I had like 3 video game ideas. So what video games do I have in mind? Well, I'll tell you. The first one is a Dark Souls styled game. And, if we look at Lies of P and we reduce it down to a very, maybe inaccurate description, but still like it gets the point across. Lies of P is Pinocchio Dark Souls, right? Does that do it justice fully? Not at all. But it gets the idea across. So with that context in mind, my Souls-like game would be chess, the board game chess, Dark Souls. How I would approach that? I think it would potentially be a Sekiro style. However, I have considered in between Sekiro and traditional Souls. And what I mean by that is when you're playing like a Sekiro style Souls game, you're playing as a set character. And a lot of Souls games, you're kind of just the Ashen One, the Undead One, you know, you're the Tarnished. And you're important enough to the story, but you're not necessarily anybody. You're just one of a group of people. You just happen to be perhaps the chosen one, right? Or you just happen to be the one that that does everything. But when you're playing as like Sekiro, or you're playing as P, or you're playing as I think what Chris, I think, or is it Krill? I think it's Krill in Another Crab's Treasure. You're playing as a set character, and that doesn't change throughout the entire story. But also the approach to like combat is very different. When you're playing Sekiro, there's a couple of different things you can do, but you're still kind of locked into a set style of gameplay that you ultimately only have so much variation in. Versus when you're booting up like, Dark Souls, you're going to have your faith, you're going to have your intellect, you're going to have strength, dexterity, right? You're going to have these various approaches to combat and builds versus a more limited and linear range that comes with the Sekiro style. But as a concept for chess Dark Souls, it's a very incomplete one because there's just so much that I'd have to consider, and I haven't put as much effort towards it because I got swept away in the creative process of my manga that I just haven't put any effort towards these game ideas. So it's kind of where it's at. Um, there's a lot that I know I could do with it, and I think that chess in a way is very limiting, but I really like the challenge of that limit and seeing how far I could push chess and Dark Souls and what I could maybe come up with, the machinations of my mind. What could it create? Right? Something silly. I don't know. I'm being a goober. But that's not the only idea that I had. I had another idea. I'm blanking on the third one, so I'm going to try to remember that. But here's the other one. I had an idea for a game that's more Telltale-esque, right? A very choose your own adventure. Although I still want gameplay to be incorporated, not just through quick time events. I'd actually like to maybe not have quick time events. I think those are kind of like, whatever. They keep you engaged, but I would rather have gameplay that's more involved rather than just reactionary like a quick time event. Not to say I'll never do a quick time event in this, but I think I'd rather just produce a video game and a movie. Honestly, in my eyes, Telltale style games, the Dark Pictures collection, all those games, right? Like to me, those are just movies where you might walk around a pretty environment for a little bit, a little bit of puzzle solving, a little bit of character interactions and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's a movie. And they're cool because you get to choose your own adventure. You can save characters. You can be weird and kill characters. You can try to get the true ending to these things. They're cool. And I like them. Uh, so what's the theme of this game? Well, it's two different things, but they are similar enough that they work. It would go in a certain order of Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And the idea is simple. You, for whatever reason, end up in prison, right? A job gone wrong, something. Your goal is to break out of that prison. During Act 1, you have the opportunity to go solo, which makes it a lot easier to break out. Uh, you can, you know, also try to recruit people. They might be useful. Perhaps somebody is a demolitions expert, and not only would befriending them help you with the heist later down the line, but they might help you with the prison escape, right? So it might be easier to escape solo and it might be quieter, but if you go a little louder, the demolitions expert can maybe help you get more than just him and you out. Maybe you can get 2 or 3 people out extra. That's a lot, to be honest with you. But, you know, you could save more than one person, right? Or maybe there's just like one sneakier person and it's just you and them. You can go quiet or something like that. And then he could be a part of your crew. So Act 2 would be building up to the heist. You would be accumulating your crew, your tools, and you would be assessing the hit. You'd be planning out uh, the sequence of events and whatnot, getting the details jotted down, all the intel that you could possibly think of. And you can, you can do a thorough job or you can do a riskier job, right? Where it's like, what kind of approach do you want to take? Do you want to take a loud approach? Do you want to take a quiet approach? Um, However your style suits you, right? A demolitions expert's not going to be quiet, but maybe you broke out with a very, very smart, um, you know, tech guy who can, maybe shut a system down for 30 seconds and get you past a couple of doors, and suddenly your quiet route is going good, you know? But I'm getting ahead of myself here. During this Act 2, you would also be collecting more people, right? You are not alone. You have people who can help you, and you would have probably a pre-established team. Obviously, you can do this entire thing solo. You can go in with a big team. You can go with a small team. The point is to have a lot of choices. The point is to have like 5, 6 different endings that are like unique, not just like, oh, choose your own adventure. It's all the same ending though, with like 2 small minor variations. You know, looking at you, Dispatch. Great. I enjoyed Dispatch a lot, but I was a little like, there's really only one ending. There's just a few variations and a few um, factors that can, or not factors, a few variables that can be changed, and that's it. It's the same story beginning to end, no matter how you try to play the game. For this, I'd want it to be a different experience. If you want to go solo, that's going to be a very unique playthrough to somebody who wants to go with the biggest, the loudest, the, you know, most boisterous crew you could have, right? Or you can go with a small, tactile team, get in, get out. You have people who have your back. You're not, just alone. And it's going to be its own little experience. Going loud versus going quiet, there'll be different things going on there, different endings and whatnot. Whether you fail, whether you succeed, whether you're on a loud run and fail or a quiet run and fail or succeed, right? I want to have a good handful of different endings to incentivize replayability, not just through something like a trophy hunt, but because it's like, oh yeah, it's like a completely different game if you want to go solo or whatnot. Like, it's like 2 different games, man. That's the kind of experience I want people to have. Um, but yeah, the reason why this is about breaking out of prison and doing a heist is because those have to be my favorite thing. There is not enough TV series, there is not enough shows, movies, whatnot about prison breaks. We need more of that. There's a handful of like heists, but we also need more of that, right? I freaking love the intricate planning, the smart, ingenious ways to utilize some of the resources that you have. Because in a prison, right, you've got such limited resources, and seeing the ingenious ways on how to take advantage of maybe some of the properties of the very limited tool set that you have available to you, it's just so cool to see how that could all, fall together into a Prison Break, right? And a similar notion is shared within me about heists. I love the intricate planning, the, plan A, plan B, plan C's, contingencies on different possibilities that happen, the, quick on the feet thinking during the heist. And that goes for the Prison Break as well, right? The on the feet thinking. I love everything about these things, and I love it when the bad guys win, right? Love it when the Prison Break works. Love it when the heist succeeds. I don't want no pesky cops, no pesky FBI stopping these. Like, I want successful bad guys. All right? Sue me. Oh my gosh. Because I don't know. I just think it's so fun. I think it's so cool. I love them. And I just have been so inspired to make a game about that. Because I wanted to maybe do like a short series, like 8 episodes, 1 hour each. But I was like, what if I made a video game that could do that, right? And the idea just kind of started from there. So, yeah, there was that. During that time, I could not remember the third video game idea. I'm going to give myself like 20 seconds here to think about what that was. Oh, you know what it was? It wasn't necessarily a fleshed out idea, but it was just the general potential to create a Metroidvania. I love Metroidvanias so much. As you can see in front of you, a notable Metroidvania. I just, I love them. Big fan of them. So, making a game in the same genre of one that I love would be fun. I would imagine how fun it would be. Maybe trying to make a 3D style Metroidvania. It could be fun. It could be interesting. Um, but 2D, is very common. Just a concept. I was trying to remember like a whole idea and concept, but I realized it was just the idea of a concept, I guess. But yeah, I would like to potentially look into a Metroidvania, but the other two I'd be more passionate about. Mainly if I chose one, it would be the Prison Break heist, but I'm still interested in pursuing, Dark Souls, but chess. Could be cool. But on to my other ideas. This is pretty cool. So, firstly, I have two manga series that I've been floating around, but one of them I've been pursuing, and I'm going to save that one for last, and I'll mention the new one after this one. So, the other manga idea that I've had for a little while involved basically just the concept of a power system without really having any general story behind it. Um, and that would be the idea of using the moon as a general power system. There's a many different ways to, you know, what's the best way to describe it? There are quite a few different things that the moon is tied to. There's a lot of different ways to describe the moon. There's a lot of different moons as well, right? What do I mean by that? Well, for example, a blue moon. Oh, once in a blue moon, right? Or maybe a blood moon, a lunar eclipse, right? Or the dark side of the moon. Because if you didn't know, the moon it has a very fancy name. I'm forgetting it right now. But the moon is in stasis. It is not rotating. It's locked in a fixed position orbiting the Earth. There is zero rotation. So there is actually a dark side of the moon because only one side ever receives um, any visual from us on Earth. We can't see the dark side of the moon because it's never rotating, right? We have to send specialized equipment to view it, which we have. There is imaging of the dark side of the moon as 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 late as the Apollo. What one was it? Was it Apollo 6? Am I even getting the name right? I don't know. There was a recent trip where astronauts went around the moon and came back to Earth. They didn't land on the moon, but they got some imaging of the dark side of the moon. I think those are the most recent images we have of it, if you're curious. But the concept of the dark side of the moon and what that could look like within the power system, right? But there's also the supermoon, right? Stuff like that. The full moon, the different stages of the moon, yada yada. There's also something like I remember reading somewhere like a harvest moon, strawberry moon, stuff like that. And I bring all of that up because the power system was centralized around those different iterations of the moon. So if you had, it would manifest as like tattoos or markings on one of your hands. So if you had, multiple marks, it would look, cool. If you had every single mark, it'd be like a sleeve basically on your hand of like tattoos. Is that called a sleeve or is it just no? It wouldn't be, would it? What's it when you get like your hand fully tattooed? Because everything's on your hand and your fingers and stuff. That's where the symbols would manifest. I don't know, and I'm too lazy to look it up. That's where it would be, right? So if you had like the symbol for the dark side of the moon, and if you had like a super moon, right? The super moon would be like a power enhancer. So if you had the super moon, you could do a lot more with the other moons. It'd be like Bankai, basically. Is that fair to say? Probably not. The idea is it's just like it's a power up that everybody can unlock. It's not really special, but everything else would be. So if you had like the dark side of the moon mark, you could have powers associated with like shadows, and you can maybe dip in and out of different shadows and whatnot. Or if you had the blood moon, you'd have blood powers, right? If you had the blue moon, you'd have water powers. If you had the harvest moon, you'd have plant powers. Strawberry moon, strawberries. Yeah, strawberries. Jokes aside, I don't really remember what the strawberry moon uh, symbolized. So either it would literally be a moon about strawberries and strawberry related powers, which would be kind of silly, but also kind of cool, or it has another meaning, and I would base it off of that more likely. But strawberries would be kind of fun, you know? But yeah, there's a myriad of different moons I could look into. They'd all have their own powers, and there'd be a system around that. And I'll talk about the moon at the very end of this video. It'll be the last thing I talk about, but it's important. And you will probably soon guess why. However, I wanted to talk about the manga series I've been currently working on. To save you yap about everything, because there's a lot more to go over, I'll simply say this. It is a series that's going to be shonen. Mm, nah, I don't really see a reason why it would be. I think seinen is more mature. I don't think I'm necessarily going to tackle anything crazy. I don't want to limit myself to just being shonen, but I don't want to like have a series that's, flowers and roses and suddenly someone's entrails are splattered in detail on a panel, you know. I'll, I don't know. Shonen, we'll just say for now. Shonen. I have my own ideas on how I want to implement shonen. I also want to have a situation where you have your classic action story, but I wanted to implement slice of life into it, where we have just entire moments of the story dedicated to slice of life, where there is nothing happening. It really is just a chill time, right? A good example is, let's say the big bad gets defeated. Instead of skipping time and just saying, oh yeah, they've been training in the meantime, we would take a moment to slow down the story, acknowledge the big bad's defeat, and allow the characters to enjoy the peace that they have preserved, right? And during that peacetime, they would have some slice of life, which would give me a great excuse to develop characters, to develop romances, to develop, all that good stuff. And there's plenty of drama that can happen within slice of life. Let's not pretend it's all smiles and flowers. There's definitely some deep topics you can tackle within slice of life without having to do it on an active battlefield, you know. The story itself would be um, nothing too complex. I don't think it'll really tackle that many things. It's more so just supposed to be fun. I don't have a lot to really say about everything. I think it's fair to just make a series that is fun, even if it's not hyper symbolic. But the power system, if you're curious, is going to be based around elements. There is also the prospect of the spirit and the soul, two separate things. Um, that's going to be tied to the air element, although it's still a general idea of the spirit and the soul, but air elemental users are also technically, connected spiritually, because the air deity is actually the spirit deity. They're not just responsible for the air element. It's an intertwined thing. Um, and so it's kind of a summoner class. It really helped me distinctify the air element beyond just like wind. There's plenty you can do with wind. There's a lot there. Trust me, I have plenty of ideas for that stuff. But I wanted to have a little bit more sauce, a little bit more flair. And when it clicked to just have this be like a spiritual element as well, I was so happy to come up with that. So, yeah, I thought that was just a cool little thing to mention. The six elements are earth, wind, fire, water, electricity, and gravity. Those last two are, doesn't matter. I won't yap here off about every little detail. But those are the six elements of that story. But today was pretty cool because I came up with a new manga idea. Yeah, I also really freaking like it. Unfortunately, I've been putting so much effort into my current manga, but then I came up with this idea and I was like, oh, why did I do that? Why did my mind have to do that? Because I love this idea. To be honest, I think it's probably simple, but I don't know. I see the potential, man. I see it. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to pursue that. So let me get to the point, right? Sorry for dancing around it for a little bit. Here is the rough idea that I came up with. The concept is simple. Once again, don't really have a super, in-depth story idea. Kind of like the first one where it was just a power system that I could take advantage of and build a story around. A little simpler here, but there is a little more to it. So the idea is there are some people, well, I guess a lot of people, always have this possibility to have an irrational fear. There are traditional fears. I mean, think about a Chainsaw Man, for example, how fears manifested there. And the more common the fear, the stronger the devil. Unless you're the Chainsaw Devil and get some magical power to erase devils permanently. And no, that's not a spoiler. Are you even reading? Come on. Keep it the program, right? But the idea is like fears, they manifest as like different demons, and the stronger the fear, the more popular the fear, you know, the crazier they are. And then you have like primordial fears that have really transcended human history, such as the fear of the dark or the fear of death, stuff like that. And while I definitely intend to take a look at fears that are common like that, the idea for my story is based around irrational fears. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say somebody has the irrational fear of birds. Now, what happens when you let that fear consume you, you turn into a demon. Maybe not a demon, but like a fear monster. Maybe I'll, call them an irrationality. I don't know. I don't have a name for it yet. Everything you're hearing come from my mouth is off the top of my dome. All right? There is no development just yet. Everything I say right now, first time I'm thinking about it. So, the concept is like they kind of get consumed by their irrational fear, in this case, birds, and it would manifest in different ways. And uh, what I want to do is potentially have a system where everybody's fear would manifest differently. So let's say you have character A who's irrationally afraid of birds. Um, I could get particular as an author and say they have an irrational fear of this bird, and this character B has an irrational fear of this bird. But instead, let's just assume it's simplified. Two unique characters who know nothing about each other both have an irrational fear of birds, and that fear consumes them. I would want a system where they probably present differently, right? Character B's fear maybe manifests because they're really afraid of uh, birds' hollow bones. Irrational fears, please be reminded. And the other person's just afraid of, what if that bird attacks me, right? Irrational fears. Get with the program, right? And so these fears consume them and they might manifest in different ways. And there are common fears, but I feel like I might do something special with common fears. No clue. No clue at all. But the concept is supposed to be about irrational fears, which gives me the chance to have a lot of unique powers. And so, maybe somebody has an irrational fear of statues or an irrational fear of really big buildings, right? They have what's it called, megalophobia or something like that, where you're afraid of like huge, huge construction buildings and stuff. Well, not construction buildings, but just like huge buildings or statues or something like that. Or are statues classified with their own unique fear? Probably. I don't know. The point is, the fears aren't supposed to be common, right? Yeah, you're afraid of spiders. Arachnophobia is pretty freaking common. Yeah, I'm afraid of heights, right? That's pretty freaking common. People are afraid of the dark. Super common. Ghosts and ghouls. Super common, right? These things are not necessarily interesting, but when somebody has a fear of carpets and that fear consumes them, trying to write a power around carpets, that sounds really freaking interesting to me. Does that make sense? So, taking this irrational fear approach, I think distinctifies my story enough. It gives me an excuse to do some stuff. And the main character, for example, would be irrationally afraid of the moon. Can you tell I like the moon? I'll get into that at the very end of the video. But he has the irrational fear of the moon. Or she. Oh, maybe I could write a woman. That'd be cool. All the other main characters are males. Yeah, no. This is going to be a woman. She has an irrational fear of the moon. How that might manifest, I don't know. I could make it to where she has light powers because the moon reflects the sun's light. So maybe I can give her powers involving the light. They might be mentioning, well, if the fear consumes these people and it's a big deal, how does the main character, how does that work? Well, there's two ways I'm thinking of doing this. The first way is people who can conquer their fear can use their fear to power up and fight these like fear monsters. Or there could be like specialized weaponry to fight these monsters, and it can be one of those classic stories of the demon inside me character energy, where it's like, well, maybe I wouldn't do the demon inside me, but like the really strong people controlled not only their fears, but they can also, wield these special weapons that are like, I don't know, anti-fear. I don't know. I'm coming up with this stuff. Bear with me here. But like, just something. I would call them, that group of characters would be called therapists. and their job would be to deal with these fear monsters with their special weapons, or if I don't take that route, they would be able to control and, not be consumed by their fear, but rather use it to empower themselves. Can you see the symbolism already? Right? And whatnot. And so you would just have a myriad of different irrational fears. But the point is, this is a brand new concept, and there's a lot that would need to be ironed out. To me, it feels like a very formulaic shonen series, but I don't know. I think it could be fun. I randomly thought of this while I was doing the dishes, I think. I thought of the concept of the therapists and the irrational fears, and I was like, dude, hold on, I am cooking. Honeymoon phase, of course, I need to sit on this idea for probably longer than a week to see if I truly like it, but I, right now, love it. So, yeah, I look forward to hopefully pursuing that a little bit, putting a little bit of effort towards that, seeing if maybe developing it more makes me like it more, or perhaps I begin to develop it more and realize, okay, isn't really working for me, right? Could swing either way. So there's that, but I do have the other manga that I've been putting a lot of effort towards. But yeah, there's that new concept. I want to take this last final moment here to mention that once again, I'm sorry I didn't get this out yesterday. Yesterday was a more ideal day to do it, but I just didn't quite follow through. Um, I do not script these videos. Everything you've just heard, including here and henceforth, is unscripted. So when I was spending yesterday, it was like 4.5-ish hours of just pure yapping, trying to get that done yesterday. I got really tired. Time really passed me by that day, so I started really late, and yeah, I didn't quite get the video out. Once again, I apologize. But yeah, the final thing I want to talk about is the moon. The main character for the manga that I've been putting a lot of effort into, right? The second one I discussed, the one with the elemental powers. The main character is a water element user, and the water element's deity is the moon deity. The reason is because the moon affects the Earth's tides, and I thought that fit perfectly with, you know, the water element, and it worked really well for a couple other concepts I have because, well, the deity for the fire element is the sun. So, you might be able to put two and two together, what that might mean. Anyways, the point is, I love the moon. The moon is my favorite thing ever of all time. There's a reason why the first manga series idea that I came up with had an entire system built around the moon, using it as a basis for the power system. And I mentioned for the brand new concept that I came up with that the main character is going to have an irrational fear of the moon. God bless her soul. And how that might manifest power-wise, who knows? I said God bless her soul. Did I say rest her soul or bless her soul? I hope it was bless. She's not dead. Um, but, like, you know, I want to incorporate the moon in everything that I do in some way. Every album will have the moon somewhere in it. Every video game will have, the moon somewhere in it. And when I say it will have the moon, I mean it will be prominent. There will be a way. Um, I guess it would be my, you know, my my tag, my little signature. You know, all of my work would be stamped with the moon somehow, some way. It'd be important, right? Like maybe you're breaking in to a building and there's like a special room and you need to find like a moon key or whatever, right? And, something like that. Or it's like a small little thing, but it's like, oh, the moon. It's important. This is the special moon room. Um, Something like that. Oh my God. 55 minutes of yapping? What the heck? I guess I have to wrap this up. I didn't know I was taking so long. Golly. I totally forgot there was a limit to new recordings. Um, okay. But yeah, I was at the end anyway. I think I can get this done in less than 5 minutes here. Um, I yeah, I just simply put want to put the moon into everything I do. I'll probably center my next personality around the moon. I had an early idea to call myself the Mad Moon, inspired by Soul Eater's moon, or I guess Fire Force Soul Eater's moon. I don't know. Soul Eater was the very first anime that I ever considered my favorite, and it's where my first ever official username came from. I think I called myself Soul Shot. I have since moved on to Void. It's kind of what I go by now. But yeah, I'm thinking my next thing, probably my permanent name is gonna be somewhere with Moon. But yeah, that's kind of it. Just wanted to mention that as an Easter egg, there will be a moon in everything that I do. So I think that'll be pretty fun. Look out for it. Whether it's tied to the power system or a small little nod to it, it'll be there in a prominent enough way. You know, maybe it'll be like a trophy for the video game where it's like enter the moon room, right? That's pretty significant. Something like that. I don't know. I'm going to end it here though. That is everything I wanted to yap about. My long-winded yap. With that being said, good night and good luck. I wish you all the most wonderful of days, weeks, and months to come, and even years. Hell, your entire life. With that being said, I will see you tomorrow. Bye. I should just leave it there. I always do bye bye. I don't know. How about this? Goodbye.